Sorry, and my stuff in one of these. All right, Bill Byer. No. Matt. I think you're on mute, Matt. Are you here?
Yes.
Okay. Corey,
Here?
Nikki,
Here.
Jack. Thought I saw you, Jack.
He's there.
Yeah, he
Bill-
gave the thumbs up. You're on mute, Jack. You gotta unmute
Right.
yourself.
And Bill, you're here. I just saw
Yes,
you.
I'm here.
Okay, great. Steve,
Here.
Russell is not going to be here today. He sent me a note. Eileen,
Yes, here.
Jess,
Here.
and Betsy here. Okay. Gang's all here. Before we start, is there anybody? We don't have any participants from the public, so I guess we don't have anybody who's going to share their thoughts about anything. As many of you saw the minutes, Meg scrambled and got all the minutes done from the prior meetings. I have received feedback from Nikki and from Eileen and have made the adjustments that they had suggested. Most of fixing Barbara LaRue's spelling of her name, making sure she was on the list of attendees, rewording the part about looking for a new member to further diversify our committee. And that was pretty much it. Excuse me. So unless somebody has other comments they'd like to make, then we can maybe have a motion for each of the ones starting with January 27th to approve as amended.
So moved.
Second?
Second,
Okay. Bill?
yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Okay. Corey?
Yes.
Nikki?
Yes.
Jack?
You can't unmute it, I guess.
Okay. Steve?
Yes.
That's not here. Eileen?
Yes.
Jess?
Yes.
Betsy, yes. Okay. That's unanimous. Okay, the minutes of February 10th as amended. Take a motion there.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
Bill,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Nikki,
Yes.
Jack. Thumbs up would be good. Oh, I don't know what's going on with him. You can't unmute, Jack. Maybe, Meg, is there anything that would be in the way of him not being able to unmute?
No, I sent a request to see if maybe he could just click on that, but I don't know if it worked for him.
Okay. Steve,
Yes.
Eileen,
Yes.
Jess,
Yes.
me, yes. Jack, we're gonna have to figure out what to do about your sound because I know you're gonna want to talk tonight for sure. Does it make sense to log on and come back to try coming back in? See if that works for him. Okay, and then the last. Let me give him a minute to get back on for the minutes on the February 24th. Well, I'll catch up with him on this one. There he is. Okay, Jack, can you unmute maybe this time? Is there a way he can dial in and he can hear us and talk to us on this?
I don't know.
Jess, any suggestions?
I mean, what happens when you hit the unmute button? Nothing?
Nothing.
Is the volume turned all the way up?
No, I can see he's muted.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I see it there in the corner.
Hold on, let me get the meeting info and I can send it to you. Because there is a oh,
Is there a dial in?
yeah.
Okay, maybe you could just dial in, Jack, and you can watch us and then talk to us on the phone. It looks like your mute button went away.
No, it's still there.
Oh, I was just,
I know you can mute people, but I don't know if you have the powers to unmute people, do you?
No, I looked through the participants and on his individual, and it won't let me do it.
Yeah.
we're not muting him, right?
No, it's not locked. You can do it.
He can do it. Okay, so it must be on his end. Jack, can you
try
just
hitting
dial the,
Control M?
what?
Can you try hitting Control M? I think that's like a shortcut key to unmute.
Oh, yeah. Try that. Good call.
Control M, okay. Jess, did you send him the phone number?
Yeah, it's in the chat.
Jack, can you see the phone number in the chat? Maybe just text it to him.
I don't know what's going on.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead on the minutes for the 24th, and then we'll come back and get his vote on it. Bill?
24th, I wasn't there.
Okay, so I will put in okay. Matt?
Yes.
Corey?
Yes.
Nikki?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Eileen? You're on mute, Eileen.
Yes.
Okay. Jess?
Yep.
Okay, Betsy, yes. Okay, and then Jack will get that, come back to him on that as well. All righty, that is that. Couple of things that I wanted to update people on. One is that I did get someone who has said they're interested in joining the committee. He was a referral from Mimi Bix Highland. His name is Karthik Rajasakarian. I am going to have to ask him to help me learn how to pronounce his name, but it's Rajasekaran. He is an engineer, been in Burlington since 2022, has a young family, is very interested in town government, and a degree from MIT, So anyhow, he and I had a long conversation, and he is very interested in joining the committee, and has sent in his resume, et cetera, for consideration by the select board. So stay tuned. Patrick is going to present that. I believe they generally, their phone calls with the candidates for that to talk to them about it, see why they're interested, et cetera. And then the select board will vote on whether he will join our committee or not. And then he'll, get up to speed with everything. So anyhow, that is great news that we're going to have a full committee once again. let's see. The other is, and I'm sure Pat is going to mention this, but as Pat mentioned last time, she was going to switch the order in the charter a little bit, so that section 3 now is elected boards and section 4 is town administrator. There is no substantive change in that. It's just that she's flipping the order to be more consistent with some of the other charters. As you look at it, you'll see section 3 has the select board in it and not much else. And that's because we haven't got there yet. Not that we don't think there should be other elected boards. So don't worry about that. We haven't got there. We'll be filling in the various elected boards. Jack, I think maybe you're back on.
Yes.
Awesome.
There he is.
Glad to have you. So anyhow, I just wanted to point that out because, I'm sure you noticed it. And again, there's not a substantive change. It's just the order was switched around on that. The other administrative thing is that next week, the next meeting we can do is either virtual, hybrid, or in person. It's really everybody's decision. What do you want to do, kind of thing. Is there a feeling one way or another on the part of the committee for?
I vote for in person.
Me too.
Okay.
Same.
I'm seeing everybody's head nod. So is anybody opposed to meeting in person? Let's go that way. Okay, I think it's unanimous then. We will be in person. And I'll get in touch with Patrick to make sure that we have the room reserved. So we'll stay tuned to that. It will be reflected. I'll send an email, but it'll also be reflected in the agenda for the next meeting. All right, that's administrative matters. Subcommittee update. The town survey subcommittee met with Stephanie from the Collins Center. I think we had a really interesting discussion. Eileen, you were part of that. Matt was part of that. And where Stephanie is started the process to constructing a survey, the actual survey itself. So there were a lot of questions she asked, and we kind of went around on a bunch of stuff. And the next step is she's going to give us a copy of a initial draft of a survey, which will have to massage and kick around a little bit further. And then we'll schedule a meeting for that. I'll let everybody know when that meeting is, because I suspect that some of you may want to attend that meeting, even though you're not maybe part of the subcommittee. But we can, get comments from people on that. Eileen, I don't know, is there anything I forgot on that committee, or Matt, that you want to
I
add?
don't think so. No, like Betsy said, it was good. And she's going to do two different formats, or two different takes of it, right? In terms of the questions.
Yeah. So it should be very interesting. The process, I think, is pretty interesting. How she's approaching this, and we were kind of grappling with a couple of things, and it's one of those things where we threw some issues that we thought we faced in Burlington with something she was talking about, and she kind of thought for a moment and then rephrased a question that kind of like captured it like perfectly, which was kind of fun to watch it kind of evolve on the fly. Matt, any comments from you on it?
It was a good meeting. She's very well qualified, and I have a lot of faith in her that she'll do a good job.
Good. Okay. That's it for us. Okay. Communication update.
A few updates. I think the biggest one, which actually we wanted to engage as overall committee on, is we had heard from Patrick that we will not have the budget in order to send an awareness direct mail campaign as we had hoped. But as you all had seen, we had already designed it and felt like the information was pretty well sorted, so it didn't overwhelm folks, but gave enough information and learning more. We do feel like it is still really important that we try to get the word out there. And so we have a couple options. We wanted to kind of get, not like physically present, but discuss with the committee and get a sense for where people lean. What we could do is, in lieu of mailing the direct mail piece, we could obviously take that artwork and convert it into a digital format, which then we can obviously post on social media. We can put it on the website. I do think an opportunity, if we were to do it on the website, would be to actually create within our structure a dedicated spot with that information. It's obviously one option, low-hanging fruit. The other option is to ask this survey group if, when there are communications going out, to also include an additional message, basically introducing the committee and making sure that there is similar level of information that explains who we are and obviously how that survey input would be used. So those are kind of the two ways we figured we could reuse some of the work that was already done.
Jess, has there been any, like the digital format and social media, that's great. But if thought of like putting that on a flyer that we could put around town, like at, True North and, the Council on Aging and various other parts of town?
I think it would just be the aspect of like printing it. Like, do we just want to like print it on a printer in the office? Or, I think that's always an option, but I also don't know what the rules would be around putting that information in some of the locations.
I would add as well, Jess, that there is a flyer version of this already created. It was created ahead of the Civic Expo. We didn't get a chance to distribute it there. So it's there. And I agree with you. I don't know what the rules are. I've always been surprised at what the rules or the sensitivities are.
Jack, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, if you start doing Facebook and things like that, you lose the randomness of your sample. And we're already at a disadvantage as far as randomness of our sample and having whatever replies are representative of the community. So that's, if we're willing to sacrifice the randomness of our audience, of our sample size.
We're not talking about the survey though, Jack. We're just talking about the communication of telling people the committee's here.
Oh, that's not, I thought we talked
Right?
about the postcard.
No, that's correct. And since we don't have the budget to do that, to be like, hey, here's who we are, we do have concern that actually when the survey does go out, people are going to be like, what is this? Who is this? How are you using my information? So we were saying, as in addition to whatever communications are going to happen in a survey, there should be an introductory. We can't this introductory postcard by itself. But then there was the question of like other ways for us to get the message out there about who the heck we are and what we're doing before the survey goes out, because honestly, it could impact the likelihood of getting people to respond if they don't know what it is.
Okay,
Yeah.
as long as it's not it's not the postcard itself.
Right. It's not the survey. It's to tell people who we are.
I think we need to find out what the rules are for posting flyers. I like the social media stuff, and I think that's a great idea, but it doesn't reach a really all the people because not everybody goes to social media. So,
Right.
I think that we need to, for the non-social media types, we need to also have something. And the flyers are the easiest thing because they can go in different parts of town. So I don't know, is anybody on the committee familiar with the rules in terms of flyers and stuff?
I think if it's town information, it's okay, at least based on my experience. The where I always ran into problems was trying to share information that wasn't town info. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't about a town event or a town committee. I think if it is about a town committee, we're representing the town. I don't see why there would be a problem with that.
And okay, so maybe if you guys could get a sample of what a flyer would be, you already have it. So
Yeah, it's created.
and why don't we? I'd be happy to share it with Patrick, or we can send it to Patrick and just ask him if he sees any trouble with us posting this around the town in retail places, the Council on Aging, on the town hall, bulletin boards. I'm not sure I know all the places where people go, so I'm open to anything that you guys think of in terms of places where people congregate that might be good to where they have a bulletin board where you can put.
Too bad our electronic sign isn't up and running yet.
Yeah, my guess is that what we want to communicate is going to be a whole lot more than what we can fit on an electronic sign. But,
oh, for sure. But we could say learn more.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's helpful. So follow up, we'll figure out the flyer situation.
The other thing is that Laura is working with Stephanie, will be working on Stephanie on the communications plan for the survey.
Okay.
And Stephanie's putting together materials for that that will be shared, and then we will be sending it out via a whole lot of other vehicles. So, but the timing I think is off. I think we need to get this particular message out
Yes.
now.
Yes.
And then the survey stuff will come in another wave.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any other thoughts on this?
We said that the launch for the survey was going to be May 1, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and if anyone else thinks of any other ideas or suggestions, send them to Russell or myself.
Great, thank you.
Just another quick note. We had a meeting with Laura last week and talked about the social media posting plan, just so that we can be reaching people in multiple different places. So we have a video that social media post that's supposed to go out very soon, and a couple more queued up. So just be on the lookout for social media, Facebook, Instagram, Reels about the committee.
Yeah, and just do me a favor is when we start talking about the committee, I just want to make sure that we come back to the specific mission that we were given by the select board and the specific objectives. I mean, we need to maybe tweak them up a little bit because they're not necessarily designed with communications in mind. But I don't want to go too far afield on that one. There was one draft of something that kind of went more in a different direction than what we've been chartered to do. So I just am maybe a little sensitive to that. So when in doubt on communication messages, please go back to the mission itself and let's make sure that we're being consistent in what we communicate. Okay, I guess that's it on that. Now I'm going to hand it over to Pat and Anthony to take us through the next discussion.
Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, great. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So before I get into the discussion today, let me just give some sort of orienting comments. So today you would have, or prior to the meeting, you would have received 4 documents from us. One was the updated version of the draft charter, and then one was the updated discussion document, and then two not examples, but two like informational pieces, 2 informational documents. We're going to we're going to use the discussion document as we did the last meeting. I'll go through some of the changes that went through here. The other documents we may or may not reach today. We wanted to circulate them because they are items that aren't currently in the bylaw. So, they weren't in this first round of creating the town administrator's duties, but these are things that you may want to look at adding to the town administrator's duties or not. But we want to just give you the full menu. So just to orient. So we're going to start with the same document or similar document to what we did last time. And then if we finish everything on here, then we may move over to those other documents if you're wondering why you received so many documents. So I'm going to start where we left off at the last meeting, which was on the human resources policy. So again, this was something that the committee had actually discussed back in January. We put together some draft language, and then the committee revisited it at the last meeting. And there was some discussion, particularly around how this type of policy affects the work of the school committee or the school department, so to speak. And so we did some research on that topic. Before I get into the research, let me just say, so we revised the language a little bit between the last meeting. So it now reads, said administrator shall prepare, subject to select board approval, implement and ensure compliance with the human resources system of said town, including but not limited to human resources policies, practices, rules, regulations, the human resources bylaw, negotiations of all collective bargaining agreements, and preparing salary classification plan, bylaw amendments for consideration of the town meeting if necessary. We spoke with the current town administrator. He stated that this year the school department has its own human resources department. That was a new thing for this year. It has its own HR policies. However, all employees are still covered by the same fringe benefits policy, excluding pensions. We looked at the town of Burlington's personnel rules and regulations that states that the town administrator or their designee shall prepare the town's personnel rules and regulations and administer the town's personnel system. There's no exemption under the current rules and regulations for the school department. So presumably they're exercising the authority of the town administrator to run that separate office. And then we did a sort of, to round things out, we did a comparative analysis really around the language, like how are other charters writing this type of section. And, hopefully this is a relatively simple chart where we looked at communities with similar, your comparator communities. And so does the town administrator have the ability to create the policy? Is that sort of language used in their charter? So most of them no, Dedham's yes. All of them pretty much have the town administrator administering the HR system, and only one of them, Dedham, has a specific exemption for the school department being exempt from the town manager and sort of town administrator administering the personnel policy or system. So that was where a lot of the conversation was at the last meeting. So you could put an exemption here. You could put an exemption here for the school committee if you want. I think that this current iteration of the language still places the responsibility with the town administrator, but allows them to delegate that to, run the department in another, in the school department. But again, that's up to that's the will of the committee.
Comments or questions on this as Anthony was looking at it? I just a comment on this one. The language for the different towns is in that other document that I sent you, which kind of flushes out the different functions for the town administrator. Just as a, if you got a chance to look at that, it kind of flushes it out more specifically. Two comments. One is that I thought we had talked about that there's like if something's a collective bargaining situation, that those whatever those policies are need to be followed. I'm not sure what the wording is there, but that would be one thing that I thought we had mentioned last time, that there would be an exemption on that front.
So this is the creation and implementation of the HR policies. So if you looked in, if you followed the link and you looked in your current rule, so this is basically the responsibility to create this rules and regulations document, which I've linked sort of in the bottom of this section here. And it does talk about how they will follow the collective bargaining agreement. So this talks about that the town administrator is responsible for creating and implementing and administering the policy and also negotiating collective bargaining on behalf of the town. But that they follow them would be within the rules that they create, which is currently how you're doing it.
Right. Okay.
I'm kind of confused, actually. Somebody say something other than me.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll
Go
jump
ahead.
in. So the last time we were together, I brought up this business of, what's the town? And maybe it says, sort of defined as Burlington. I don't know. But again, I say, so there's the town side and then there's the school side. But then the negotiation of all collective bargaining agreements of all. So again, is that just the town side or is that the town and the school side?
So this language would include both.
So this person is responsible for the bargaining agreements for the schools and the town.
Correct. Under this language, if we want to change it, we can put an exemption for both if you want, if the committee wants to do that.
I just want to be clear about that. Okay, thanks.
But well, how does that operate now?
Yeah.
In Burlington?
My understanding is that the school committee exclusively negotiates collective bargaining agreements with anybody on the school side, that there is no town administrator designee, unless that would be the human resources coordinator for the schools, unless that person is considered the town administrator.
Mhm.
That's also my understanding.
Right. Mine as well.
I believe the school has special counsel for union negotiations.
Yes, they do.
So it feels like when it comes to the union bargaining agreements, we should exclude the schools for that section of it.
Because
Because we can.
Well,
and because that's the current practice. I mean,
Because
is
that's
that a good enough reason? Yeah.
I mean, does it make sense to have one person do all of it? They're very different, right? Yes, no, maybe, I'm not sure.
I don't think it makes sense to have the town administrator be responsible for bargaining with teachers.
We can put in language to do the exclusion. We can also we can reach out to the town administrator on this specific question between now and your next meeting as well. So what I'm hearing is you want to put exclusions for the school department, and we can also ask that specific question of the current administration, if that's what the committee wants to do.
Would folks, sorry, go ahead, Bill.
I know, school departments have certain authority on their own that are separate from the town side, shall I say. And I guess I'm not sure where that dividing line might be when it comes to negotiating contracts for teachers.
yeah, and I look at it as more, the schools make up what? 60% of the budget or more? I've lost track of it, frankly, over the years, but I mean, such a major portion of the town's money that I guess I'd like to think that there's someone else, perhaps it's in addition to the superintendent, looking at the contracts and negotiating with them.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Jack?
Well, town meeting has the power of the purse, so they can't negotiate a contract that spends more money than we give them.
Wow.
That's technically true, but
Yeah.
I don't know the last time a school budget was rejected by town meeting.
And the town meeting doesn't have line veto authority, so you can't say, oh, we don't think this isn't good. what I don't understand is what's statutory in terms of what school committees have, the schools where they have to be separate. Is there anything, or if we wanted to, the town administrator could have everything to do with the schools? I mean, is there any legal reason that would drive this discussion one way or another?
I'm not aware of any legal prohibition. As I stated, it's sort of in the chart, not all, but, the majority of the other charters that have this provision, they don't have an exclusion for the school department except for Dedham.
Except for what?
Except for Dedham.
Okay.
No exclusion except that. Oh, okay.
Well, is that a decision that we should be making, or should the select board and town administrator talk to the school committee and the superintendent and work something out and let us know what they worked out? Who are we to dictate that?
We're
Well,
not dictating.
No, this is just what we're proposing, what would seem to make sense. I'm wondering if we have enough information on this in order to actually have an educated discussion about it, or whether we need to. I wish Patrick didn't have a capital budget meeting, because I think he could probably be really helpful as we're getting into this conversation. But how does it work?
If we're just proposing something, why are we even consider proposing something that might not even fly? Does that just make us look a little stupid?
Well, right now apparently we do not exempt the schools, Jack. Right? Is that right, Anthony? Is that what you just said?
This language is trying to include the schools.
Well, right now we do include the schools, is what Anthony is saying.
If you give me 1 second, I can pull up keep talking. I'll pull up the personnel document. And I'll just show you that so you can read it.
You had section 1.1.2 of the town Burlington personnel rules and regulations states that the town administrator or their designee shall prepare the town's personnel rules, regulations, administer town's personnel systems. No exemption for school department. Okay, it doesn't say anything there about negotiating contracts.
If I may chime in for just a second, I just wanted to share some information. After the last meeting, we had asked the town administrator about the school separate HR, and his response was that the school department does have a separate HR department. This is the first year of it, and they do have their own policies. However, all employees are covered by the same fringe benefit policies, excluding pensions. And the school committee approves those personnel policies. So this is a very recent change, that the school has their own HR department. So it wouldn't. I'm not sure if they've gone back and changed, the bylaws to reflect this change, or if they decided that this would be a voluntary kind of giving up of this authority to the school for the HR department to see how this works.
Well, if I could comment on that, the schools are previously the school department set their own policies with regard to employees. They might not have had their own HR person, but there was an overall HR person who did not set policies for the school department. School department set their own policies when it comes to their teachers and employees. So that is continuing with just an additional person as an administrator, but it's not changing any of the actions of how they're operating.
Correct. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, Pat, I'm not sure. I mean, the person who did both the town and the schools now is just doing the schools, but the job didn't change. The nature of the policies didn't change. It's just they now have a full-time person who can help hire people quicker. I mean, that's pretty much what that was doing, I think, in my opinion. And maybe we need to get John back to talk to us about how does this really work today. Anthony, you were going to look up something, but it appears from here that we don't seem to exempt the schools from anything under our current bylaws. Anthony?
If we're going to have John come in, we might want to also have the school department come in. to get both sides of the story and how it's operating.
That's good. Who would be the right person for that?
Dr. Conti probably. So I'd run it by the school committee chair.
Anthony, what did you find?
I'll share it now. So this is section 1.2 of the personnel rules and regulations for Burlington. And it does not specifically mention the. I think the conversation that was the original part was about the collective bargaining agreement. It talks about the administration of this talks about the administration of the personnel policies.
Where is that document from?
This is from the town's personnel rules and regulations.
Okay.
Can you make that bigger, please?
Sure.
So the current language, Anthony, is that out of the bylaws or special acts, or where's that from?
So this is a person. So, there's a couple levels to this. So you have your bylaws, which are adopted by the town meeting. This is the personnel policy, which is presumably promulgated by the select board and the town administrator. So this is a policy. This isn't a bylaw.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that doesn't even rise to the level of regulation. It's
Right.
I mean, it's not a bylaw, but it's a regulation of the.
okay.
Well, that's guidance, but that's all right. I look at that, and again, based on what I recall is how the town operates, that applies, or has applied pretty much straight to what's on the town side of employees, and that the town administrator has not really done anything when it comes to the school department. There's been pretty much a solid wall there between them, as far as I understand.
Well, I do think probably we're not in a position to solve this one without getting some more information. I think that unless you guys disagree with that, it feels like we need to have to talk to the town administrator. Now, if John comes and says, yeah, it is they do their thing, the town does our thing, then we probably don't need to bring the schools in unless we think it needs to change. But I think we need to have a conversation with what's really going on now, and not that we can't change it, but we should understand what the the good, bad, and the ugly is of what this is and how it works.
Right, the pluses and minuses. Right.
Yeah, and I just don't know that we have the information that we need in order to do that. And I think the question about personnel, with the new HR person going over to the schools, I don't think it had a whole lot to do with any of this, how they operate, other than to giving a full set of hands to both the town and the schools to do the hiring and all the other stuff that needs to happen in terms of the administration. And in terms of benefits, that's run, I would expect that to be townwide anyhow, so that's good that it is, but that's not really what we're talking about in any of this.
Before we leave this in the paragraph language for discussion, at the end of the second line, I'm a little bit concerned about the phrase, but not limited to. That just, why have a list if we're not limiting it to that list? That just leaves too much wide open.
Sure, compliance with the human resources system of the town.
Including but not limited to.
Yeah. What's the reason for that, Anthony?
Well, this is definitely not an exhaustive list of all the different ways that you can promulgate or title or describe human resource policy. So it is meant to be a non-exhaustive list of like how your human resources and personnel policies are either created or codified.
And the only other comment I would have about that, and it says for consideration of town meeting if necessary. but the if necessary, I think, is probably not appropriate. I think because town meeting is the one who does approve all the money. So maybe it's more like as necessary. Bill, I don't know. Could you weigh in on that one? Because you know more about this than I do.
There are some things that town meeting doesn't have to vote on, but pretty much if it's spending money, it does.
I balked at if necessary too, and I think I couldn't figure out exactly why, but I think as necessary solves the problem in my head, Betsy.
Okay. Well, that's probably an easy tweak to make on that. And maybe what we do is let's take this language and use this as the discussion point with the town administrator at the next meeting. And if appropriate, ask the schools to come in as well. I'm not sure about whether the school should be, whether this is an inclusive thing of the schools, or whether if I guess that's what I need your guidance on, is like, if John says, well, the schools pretty much do their own thing and the town does their own thing except for when we come down to approving the budgets, is that something we should push on to maybe change that, or is that I don't know.
I think it's something we need to understand, because obviously we have questions as to who has, at least I have questions as to who has authority for what.
Yeah.
And I also think, to Eileen's point, a department that's spending 60% of the town's overall budget maybe needs a little bit of oversight from the town side. I don't know what that looks like. And I do know in past, town meeting especially just has top line power, but and I do know that I'm sure that there are people involved in the process, step by step. We just don't see how the sausage is made. But I think understanding how the sausage is made might be beneficial to finishing out this conversation.
Okay, so then we should probably have the schools represented here. So we should probably talk to John and then have somebody, Dr. Conti or his designee, who can come talk about this process. I'm not sure who that would be, to attend our next meeting. And
I would still like some language that is not as wide open as, but not limited to. There may be, some wiggle room to bring in things that are not in this list, but to leave it as wide open as, but not limited to, just, is a little bit too much for my comfort level.
May I speak to that?
Yeah.
I just wanted to say it's fairly standard. It's not an exhaustive list. Some of the things that an administrator might do and an HR might do might include training programs, mentorship programs, things that are not necessarily fall within these things, but a part of a complete human resources services package. So it's impossible to kind of give a laundry list of every single thing that the administrator would be responsible for, which is why the but not limited to is there. If there's a concern about a certain power, we could probably take that out. But the world of human resources is changing constantly with different best practices. And this gives the administrator through the human resources department kind of the flexibility to adjust with the times and give the staff the things that they need to do their jobs.
Yeah.
Maybe that language can be covered in the policy manual rather than in the charter.
Well, I'm just wondering if we're very specific that we're talking about in terms of this is human resource policies and procedures. We're not talking about anything else. We're just talking about HR policies and procedures, right? So in terms
Well, I mean, we can modify this language. It gives them the policy, the duty, the responsibility to create the HR policies and also to administer the HR system. I mean, we could break it apart into two different sections, but I mean, it is meant to cover that the town administrator is responsible for the entire HR package for the community.
why don't we just
The way it's currently formulated.
Why don't for now, let's make note that there's some level of discomfort with that, not limited to, but for the time being, because we're going to need to come back at this anyhow with a town administrator and somebody from let's just leave it at that, change the as to if to as necessary. And then see what we learn when we talk to the town administrator. The one thing I need some help with is someone to get an idea of what specific questions are we asking the town administrator. So if you all would just think about that and send me one or two questions, that on this topic that we want to have the town administrator or the school address, that's what we're going to be talking about, so we can focus that discussion and be respectful of their time, and then we can get through the other side of this. Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So, is everybody okay if we move on to the next then? Speak now, or if you're not, okay. Jack, is your hand up from before? Is that?
Say again.
Your hand, is that up from before, or is that now?
Let me lower it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Anthony, why don't you move on to the next?
So the next section is on budget preparation. So in the original language from the bylaw, there were two separate sections, F and G. One talked about the town administrator should be responsible for the preparation and format of the uniform budget document in a way that is acceptable to the Finance Committee. The second section, G, said the town administrator shall be responsible for the preparation of the annual budget. Presumably one is about the document itself, just how it looks and appears. The other one is about the substance of the budget. We felt, and again, the committee can want to break it up, but we felt that it's kind of saying the same thing, so we can merge them together into one specific paragraph. And the other thing we did is focus it on the operating budget. So the towns have an operating budget, which is the one that usually causes the most conversation at town meeting and so on, which is how do we fund salaries and things like that for the following fiscal year. So this one, the revised language for discussion is that the town administrator shall be responsible for the preparation of the annual operating budget from the town, except for the school committee. And a sentence, the town administrator shall coordinate with the finance committee on the preparation and format of the unified budget document. So it maintains that the finance committee will sort of specify how it will look. It just merges that into one section. Before we turn over to the committee for discussion, one thing I do want to sort of bring up is one thing that wasn't in the bylaws, but more and more communities are starting to consider is the annual capital outlay. So we recommend replacing the G with the following language, which is really the mirror image of the language you saw before, which is the town administrator shall be responsible for the preparation of an annual proposed capital outlay program for the next 5 fiscal years of the town, except for the school department. And the town administrator shall coordinate with the existing capital budget committee on the preparation and format of the capital plan. So that's the suggested language. They are kind of mirror images of each other.
Oh, boy, that's loaded. Why are we excluding the schools?
My understanding from our last meeting was that you wanted to have some separation for the schools and some of these things. So that's the proposal. You can make whatever changes you want.
And I think when we spoke with the town administrator last time, the response was that the schools send their budget directly to the Ways and Means Committee, and that currently the town administrator, while he gets involved in the coordination and goal setting in the beginning of the process, does not include the school budget in the budget document that he submits to Ways and Means. That's separate.
Yeah, I think he gets involved in establishing like if it's, the rate of increase, like if the town's got to hit, the overall budget has to be 3%, can't exceed 3%. Town administrator establishes that number, the targets, that people need to hit.
Town administrator does that together with the Ways and Means and the accountant and treasurer. Right. So it's not a sole decision of the town administrator.
Yeah, well, that's not what I know, but I mean, he's the one who kind of does it, right? Is that wrong?
It's really a joint discussion.
Yeah. Okay.
It starts out as a discussion. There are the financial folks may put together some basic projections with a couple different scenarios, but it's a joint discussion with the select board, the town administrator, school committee, school superintendent, Ways and Means.
Can I just add, I'm looking at the budget book right now. So there's a paragraph on page 11, which is I think it's the letter from the chair of Ways and Means. I'll have to look at the signature. Yeah. And it says initial budget development starts at the department level in January, followed by review at the supervisory level, in parentheses, town administrator and assistant town administrator on the town side, or the superintendent on the school side. And then later in the same paragraph, it says the school budget is approved for your review by the school committee. All other budgets get final review and approval by the select board. So it really looks like
it's separate.
They're very separate. And okay. I'm going to continue looking. There's 151 mentions of school in this budget book, but I really think, based on looking at this for the last few years, that the only mention of the school in this document, which is 151 pages long. Oh, maybe there's not. Okay. Anyway, the only mention I think is in just one like line item, but I'll come back to you if I find any more than that.
Well, it's clear from that, Nikki, that their schools are excluded, at least from that part. I guess the question is that the way it should be? I think the only thing that I'm uncomfortable with is the capital part being separate from the town, because the town has to eat the cost of all of it, and it ends up being a tax issue for our residents. So, not having a unified planning structure is concerning to me, just structurally.
I'm not sure I follow that, Betsy.
So we talked about not so much the budget part. I'm cool with that. That's not so much a big, but one of the other is the kind of the capital planning part.
Right.
So having the town prepare the capital plan, which Anthony has suggested here, like a 5-year capital plan. And I'm not sure 5 is the right number. Maybe it's 10, but whatever the number is. And then the schools doing their own separately, that I have a concern about that, because when it comes to it, it's one pot of money. And then you've got, you have what we have now. A police station needs to be built and 2 schools needs to be built. Bam, you're in conflict. So it feels to me that when it comes to capital budget items, that needs to be a more unified look from the town side, because it all affects the town residents in terms of the tax base. Did I explain it any clearer?
And I think
I understand what you're after, but in that they have to be coordinated, yes, and they have to be, the schools and the town side need to integrate and their budgets and set their priorities for what they want to spend money on each year.
Yeah.
And I think if Patrick were here, he would say that they're working towards having a unified capital plan. I know that for a fact that he's working on one with all of the departments I'm not sure if school is included in that yet, but I don't see how they couldn't be.
But well, that's kind of where I'm
For the
going.
reasons that you just said. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like if this is an opportunity to kind of document the fact that this stuff needs to be unified. It can't be. We can't continue on with two just separate organizations doing their own capital planning stuff and then having it, and then having the residents have to face the fact that we need, oh well, it's just we just need this school or we just need that school or wait a minute, no, we need a new fire department, but it's all comes out of the same pool of money. So there seems to be up to now no formal integration. This is an opportunity to maybe formalize some of the integration.
Well, major buildings that don't fit into a 5-year capital plan. I mean, how often do you build a school? How often do you build a police station? Every half a century?
But
Bill, I think that consulting fee for $1.5 million, I don't know that was in the budget.
Excuse me? I didn't hear you clearly.
So the $1.5 million that we spent for the analysis for the new high school,
yeah,
I don't think that was in the plan. So I mean, that was a big gotcha. But anyway, so there are. I'm with Betsy on this. I mean, it should be consolidated. Again, it's one pot of money.
And the process takes a while.
Who's setting the priorities?
But the process also takes a while. It's not like today we decide to build a school and then we pay for it tomorrow. I mean, you're planning that years and years out. So I do think it can show up in a capital planning budget.
Yeah, just not to interrupt, but just for the FYI for the committee. So oftentimes where we're talking about things like this, I mean, schools and buildings are big examples. And the 5-year time frame is what's most common for most communities, but it's really sort of thinking about, I mean, you're looking at financing costs, paying off the debts, things like that. They all sort of the administration ideally is planning ahead because vehicles, buildings are ending a useful life, and it's part of that. It's part of that entire process. Again, you don't, like I said, you don't have to have it separate, but you don't have to. But those are all usual things that you're going to take a big expense in terms of. It's going to be very expensive, and it's a sort of a large long-term project that's going to have long-term financing costs on the other side.
I think that one of the things that town meeting, and I think Monty Pearson's the one who actually brought this up, is that we need an integrated capital budget process, and we don't have it. I think through this charter, we have an opportunity to memorialize the fact that we would have and maybe 5 years is the wrong number, and maybe it's 10 years, because we should be looking at all buildings, facilities, et cetera, on an ongoing basis. And if we know we're going to need a school, like right now, we probably know that we need another elementary school at whatever school it is, it's the next one. And somebody's going to have to put in some money for, some sort of planning thing, et cetera, or what other buildings are wearing out, or I don't know what it is after the police station that we need. But it just feels like we don't have anything there that's integrated for the town. I feel like there needs to be, and there needs to be somebody who's accountable for that. And anyhow, maybe I feel like this is an opportunity. I guess I'll stop at that.
I agree with you, Betsy. And I was also going to add as well, as just a part of the capital budgeting conversation, that we already have a bylaw that was passed by town meeting. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is correct. That the town administrator is to present a 5-year capital plan in January and in May, I think. And so this would be a good opportunity to sort of look at that language and maybe mirror the language in that to ensure that, that process that you're talking about is codified.
Mm-hmm.
If you go back a number of years when they first town administrator, it was Bob Mercier, who first started presenting these capital plans, he always went with the 10-year plan, but with the caution that, the further you went towards 10, the more flexible and changing it might be.
Sure.
Yeah. I think,
But
yes.
he gave us a 10-year window to look at.
So, Kat, when you were going through our bylaws, the bylaw that Nikki is referencing, did you see that one? Because it seems to make some sense.
It
Well,
does.
ju-
I
just
don't
before-
know that I did see that one.
Well, just before Pat sort of goes in, this section is on giving someone the responsibility, like they should be held accountable for doing it in terms of the town manager. There's a whole section of the charter, the financial procedure section, which will cover in detail the steps to produce the annual budget. And usually will cover, it often can be an import and cover the capital planning process. This is just about assigning the responsibility and who should be held accountable for doing it.
Yeah, and I feel like the town administrator should be accountable for doing it. So that's why I'm suggesting it. Somebody has to be for the whole town. And it feels to me that that's the place it needs to be.
Okay, I'm fine.
Well, I'm having trouble squaring that with the bottom paragraph on page 2, the second line, the phrase "within the administrator's purview." I don't know that we define that, and that almost says something's excluded, and you're asking that somebody should be in charge of the overall.
Right.
And that within the administrator's purview suggests that there's something that's not going to be within the overall that the town administrator prepares.
Yeah, so I think that language needs to be modified.
Yeah, we need to give details of what is within the town administrator's purview, and if something's excluded, what and why.
Which section are you reading? Are you reading from?
I'm reading the document more in page 2, bottom paragraph, second line.
Bottom paragraph.
So
the proposed language on page 2 is the town administrator should be responsible for the preparation of the annual operating budget, except for the school department.
I'm looking at this under the discussion. I just see that language, and that's not squaring with what we're talking about.
Jack, what does the paragraph start saying? What's the first?
It starts with the proposed language. We're on page. We're on page
right there. Right there. It starts the proposed language requires the administrator to produce a single unified budget document covering all municipal operations within the administrator's purview. That's within the administrator's purview.
I don't know what that means.
And this,
so it's
that's not the language for the charter. That's explaining, so for example, this language excludes the school department from this town manager's purview, but no others.
Right. So what I think Jack's getting at is that for the preparation and operating budget for the town, except for the school department. So that's the language that we are thinking putting in, Jack. What Anthony has below is just some level of explanation of what that would entail, I believe. And what we're saying here is that they would be responsible, and I guess it's the annual operating budget for the town, except for the school department, and on the annual operating budget, and on the capital budget side, it would be responsible for the preparation of the proposed capital budget, not just the annual, but it's the plan in addition to the annual and including the school department. That's what I'd like to see. And obviously coordinating with I'm not sure it's the capital budget committee or it's maybe the finance ways and means committee.
When I looked at there seems to be a capital outlay. I forgot because I have to switch between two screens, but that was pulled from what was in your on the town's website. If that's not the right committee, we can replace the name. But that was what we did find in terms of examining capital issues.
Bill, is that the right committee?
Oh, it probably is, except that committee has not been the most effective, but that's another story.
I think they all collaborate, though, don't they? Don't Ways and Means collaborate with capital budget to
No.
set priorities? No, it's just capital.
There's no communication between those two.
So who should it be? Should it be Ways and Means or should it be capital budget? Or should we say Ways and Means here and then deal with the capital budget issues later? Like I know that there were all kinds of proposals about whether that should roll up under Ways and Means or whatever, and kind of some of the feedback we got. But that's for another discussion at another time.
In that case, I'd put Ways and Means Committee in there.
Okay, so let's change that to Ways and Means for now.
One,
Or
you
Finance
changed
Committee,
what-
since we changed it, right?
Finance,
you
yeah,
changed it to
Finance Committee. Yeah,
Yeah.
Finance Committee.
Did,
And
did
then-
we not discuss at one time making capital budget a subcommittee of Ways and Means?
We
Yes,
did, yeah, that was one of the things we had talked about. But, so if you say Finance Committee, we're good there. But it's sponsored by the annual proposed capital outlay program for the. Nikki, that's the language you were, saying that we have that bylaw that we passed for, right? That would go in
Yeah,
there.
I was just thinking about Anthony's point is well taken. This is just sort of who's responsible for it. I understand that. I'm just thinking about sort of making sure that we're tracking across all of the bylaws that talk about this 5-year capital plan and making sure that they agree with each other. That's really all I'm saying.
Okay, and then are people comfortable with us pulling out the except the school department on the capital planning part?
I am.
Me too.
And why? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
Why? Why not include it? Again, this one big pot theory?
No. No, right. Yes, we're saying to include the schools.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Okay. So it seems like, do we need to vote or is that like,
I can make a motion if you'd like.
I think that'd be great.
I make a motion to just approve the language as amended.
Second.
Okay,
And which paragraph on which page is the language we're voting on?
Well, 44G is what I'm seeing in front of me right now, but the one
Okay.
before that as well of the capital. So is it 44F?
Let's do each one.
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah, let me scroll back to the top. But before I do that, I'll make this edit, and you tell me if this is not correct. So I'm changing that from accepting to including the school department.
Yeah.
That sounds like what I heard. And if that's okay, then I'll scroll to the top, and this would be the first. Sounds like the first vote. So this is a new F. And this is the proposed language.
Okay. The town administrator shall be responsible for the preparation of the annual operating budget for the town, except for the school department. The town administrator shall coordinate with the finance committee on the preparation and format of the unified budget document. So here we're excluding the school department for the operating budget, which is our current practice. And the coordination with the finance committee. All right.
I have a.
Go ahead, Eileen.
Yeah, so what I've always scratched my head over was that in the operating budget, again, the schools make up so much of that. There are 2 line items. Accommodated, operating, whatever, 150 million, 30 million, whatever, but it's just 2 line items. And so I went and I looked at Winchester, Dedham, Reading, and all their budgets include line items for the school budget. Now, we're talking 50 pages, and I'm well aware that there's a very detailed budget, on the school's website. They've done a nice job with that over the years. But 2 line items, 2 amounts for such a big number. I don't know.
I think that one's statutory though, Eileen.
2 line items?
I think so. I could be completely wrong, but that's my understanding.
Anthony, can you and Pat speak to that?
I can if someone.
Oh, good. Whoever can.
Yeah, that is statutory. The school department has a bottom line budget. And that's it.
So because these other towns do, that's just an accommodation to the residents and the town meeting members to have all the details in front of them instead of having to go to two different places. That's
That may be yes, but we don't get to argue over line items in the school department budget.
No, I understand, Bill, but at least you understand them. And that's, that would be.
Well, there is a document that the schools do put together a detailed document.
I just said that. No, I know, and it's awesome. But again, I don't think, and again, it's incumbent upon the town meeting members to go look at that. Whether they do or not, I don't know. But again, I just went to 3 or 4 different towns, and they had very nicely displayed and laid out for people. That's all. Just information. Good data points.
So how do people handle that, Anthony, within the charter? I mean, this language seems to be good for the town side, but how do they handle the schools? Is that under the elected? Where's that happen?
So how the budget document is presented, which is what I think I heard, which is sort of how it looks and how it is able for people to follow. It's not specifically, that would not be specifically articulated in the charter. That would be up to the groups or individuals putting together the budget to present presumably the most persuasive document they have to the town meeting. What would be in the charter is who's responsible for creating the document and what is the process to put it together.
But so there will be something in the
have it look differently.
But there will be something in the charter that talks about the responsibility of the school committee in preparing the budget document. Is that what you're saying?
So, generally when we get to what's called the financial procedure section, what it would usually look like is a timeline for the school committee to have submitted something for the finance committee or the town manager to sort of review before it goes to town meeting. That's usually sort of the limit of it in the charter, what's discussed.
Okay. Well, anyway, interesting thing to see these other towns and have that information right there. But
so in terms of our administrator being responsible for the preparation and format,
yeah,
of our uniform budget document, which is acceptable to the finance committee for all departments or agencies. Oh, wait a minute. What are we saying? Sorry. And preparation of the format for a unified budget document. Okay, so the language we're proposing is this asterisk F. Can you highlight it, please, Anthony?
Yeah, please.
This is what we're talking about right now, just so we all are understanding what it is we're suggesting. That we put this language in, which is a little different from what we have now. So the town administrator with this language is going to have the responsibility for putting together the whole operating budget for the town. Coordinating with the finance committee on the preparation and format of the budget document. Okay.
That's the exact same language that's in the discussion sheet we got.
Well, that's
nothing
right.
changed there.
Well, this is what yes, that's what we're looking at.
Yeah, there's nothing changed from what this document we got last week.
Right. So we're saying, is this okay that people comfortable for now that we adopt this language for this? And then the second thing we're going to do is decide whether we're comfortable adopting the second part, which is around the capital budget, which is down a little bit further in this document, where we're saying that town administrator will be responsible for developing a unified capital budget plan for the whole town, inclusive of the schools.
I believe what's highlighted in yellow is exactly what we're doing now. At least it was when I was in the Ways and Means Committee. Do you agree, Bill?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Yeah. So is everybody comfortable with this one?
Yes.
Okay. Let's take that. That is the discussion language for F. I'm going to go through and, Bill, you're comfortable with that? Are you?
Yes.
Okay. Matt,
Yes.
Corey?
Yes.
Okay. Nikki,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Eileen,
Yes.
Jess.
Yes.
Okay, me, yes. Okay. Now let's go to the second language. So Anthony, you're going to put that in now, and we move on to the next one, which is, can you highlight the modified language that we, okay. So here we're saying that the town administrator is responsible for the preparation of an annual proposed capital outlay program. I'm not sure those words, proposed capital outlay, but I think it's a capital plan for the next 5 fiscal years for the town, including the school department.
Mhm.
The town administrator should coordinate with the finance committee on the preparation and format of the capital plan.
The bylaw that, the Monty Pearson bylaw that we passed in last town meeting is for 10 years.
That's why I was wondering if it shouldn't be 10.
Yeah.
So let's put 10. So now we're consistent. Okay. Any other concerns, questions, or do we have a vote on this one? Do we have a motion to do a vote to approve this?
So
I think the motion's on the table.
Okay. Okay. So
Second.
this is now, okay, thank you. 44G. Okay. Bill,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Nikki,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Eileen,
yes.
Jess.
Yes.
That's a yes. Okay. All right. Okay, you got this one. Okay, now.
All right. So now we're going to. Actually, I think this should be H. So, which, well, on the current bylaw, it's I. It will go in as H. Oh, I'm sorry. No, it'll go in as I. So this is on the periodic review of the bylaws and regulations. So the current language says that the administrator will review the bylaws and regulations regularly and then make recommendations to the select board on changes that the manager thinks might be necessary to improve the administrative operations of the town. The main change here is around a removal of the limitation to under the jurisdiction of the select board. So basically, the town administrator will be looking at the bylaws that affect the entire town. And there was some language, some gender language. We just removed that so that's gender neutral. Those are the main changes here.
So can you highlight the language you're proposing, please?
Sure. And I will read it as well. So the new language would state the town administrator shall be responsible for the review of all current bylaws, regulations, and policies that affect the departments and agencies, and shall make such recommendations for changes as the town administrator deems necessary.
What's the rationale for removing the phrase under the jurisdiction of the select board?
Correct.
So that they could look at bylaws that affect the entire town, not just the ones that are under the select board's jurisdiction.
So bylaws that affect independently elected boards.
Yeah, correct. Yes.
However, they couldn't actually change anything because it has to be approved by other, by town meeting.
And
Correct.
this is just to make recommendations.
And make such recommendations, right? But not, they can't.
Town meeting changes the bylaws, but not the regulations and policies.
That's right.
Right.
But we're talking, well, yeah, okay. But for bylaws, yeah, town meeting does it.
Yeah. And then in terms of policies, that would be regulations and policies that affect departments and agencies.
I guess I don't have a good feel for what regulations and policies he'd be dealing with that and how they may or may not interact with other departments that, such as independent boards. But
the only ones I can think of are things that we've already talked about, like the human resource ones, technology, like cybersecurity and all that kind of stuff.
The library may have different policies, right, than anybody else.
I don't know.
There could be policies on cash handling. There could be a policy in a variety of areas. Yeah, cash handling is the one that just comes to mind. I'm trying to think. There's a number of areas depending on what the department's doing.
Mm-hmm.
So as far, I mean, this is
maybe Jess, you can answer. Doesn't the planning board have policies dealing with the downtown center that are not part of the bylaws?
What?
Are you? You're talking about signage and all that kind of stuff?
No, not signage.
I mean, they're like guidelines.
Guidelines, yeah.
Well, this is not saying that he's the only one responsible.
Right.
It's saying he's making.
He's responsible for taking a look at them. But
yeah, like it would still have to go
to do their. I mean,
it shall make recommendations or changes,
policies.
Yeah, I would think it would still have to go through the appropriate.
Right, but
boards.
Well, should we say make recommendations for changes to the appropriate boards as the town administrator deems, or the town deems necessary? I mean, with that.
No, all I'm saying is that he can go and do this, but he's not necessarily the only person responsible for making recommendations for changes to bylaws.
Right, that is true.
There's people who can do that. And there are other departments who may make recommendations to change regulations that apply to them.
Correct.
Just saying that he's responsible for taking a look at it.
Yep. Yeah, I have no problem with this, I don't think.
Well, I'd only add, how often? Is it an annual or every other year or every 5th year or something?
This doesn't say. I would, the charters that we've looked at, doesn't usually specify a time frame. You could put annual or every, some number of years.
Does it make sense?
Put some discipline in it, right? Otherwise, it falls through the cracks.
So if he makes recommendations for changes, to whom is this recommendation directed, and who makes the changes? From what I read here, he recommends to himself. It does what he deems necessary.
No, that's not what this is saying.
Well, so who will make the changes?
Well, so you have earlier in the charter sort of expanded the town manager's purview, but there are definitely areas which some we have gotten to, some we haven't, which that the town manager does not have any responsibility over. One that will, because it's under state law, the planning board, which was already discussed, would definitely be outside of their responsibility. There, the select board, the school department. There's a number of areas that we will probably go through with the charter, and to the extent that the town manager doesn't have the direct control over those regulations, he would be going to the appropriate body. He or she would be going to the appropriate body to make the recommendations, whether it's the select board or some other appointed board or some.
Well, I'm wondering then if you'd make recommendations to the appropriate body, if you put that in there, if that just doesn't solve the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony. So if you put in to the appropriate body after the word recommendations.
Or to the impact of the appropriate body. If you're going to make a change to some regulations, the department or agency or board whose regulations they are should have some say.
Well, it's not saying that he's making recommendations. He's not making any changes. He's making recommendations. So recommendations are going into the appropriate body, and the appropriate body will make the decision as they feel appropriate. I mean, that to me is pretty self-evident. Anybody, what are your thoughts?
I think it's fine. Just add a time, that's all,
Okay.
annual or otherwise.
Again, I'm putting this in. If you want to change this, I just put annual in as a placeholder.
May I chime in on the time?
Yep.
So later in the charter, just to give you a preview, we generally will recommend in the general provisions at the end to, for example, one, review the charter every 10 years, but we've also included a provision to review the bylaws every 5 years. And that's kind of because that's really a huge undertaking to review bylaws. So I would not recommend adding a time limit here. There'll already be a time limit for the general town's review of bylaws later. I would suggest we leave this open for now because it would be quite a burden for the town administrator to look at all the bylaws every year and recommend changes. That's what the implication would be if you said annually. The purpose of this bylaw is so that when the town administrator notices something that may be better handled, if look, all of our departments are doing this and it's due on this date, would you consider changing your policy to have it due at the same time? It would make sense. It gives the town administrator the authority to take a look at other regulations other than only those in the departments under the select board's purview.
Yeah.
So I would not recommend a time limit in this one. There will be a time limit later on down in the charter.
Thanks.
Okay, you okay, Eileen, if we put?
Yeah, it's good. It's good. All good.
Okay. All right. So let's take a look at this language and let's vote on this, which is 3-4I. Okay. Bill?
Yes.
Did you add anything about to the appropriate board or anything like
Yeah,
that?
it's right there. Look, if you read it, it's right there.
Okay, I didn't see that change. Okay.
Okay. Matt?
Yes.
Corey?
Yes.
Okay. Nikki?
Yes.
Jack?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Eileen?
Yes.
Jess?
Yes.
Betsy, yes. Okay. All right. We got those two done. We doing on time?
Oh, so the last one on, covering what was already in your bylaws is M. And so the current language says, and I'm going to actually read this, said administrator shall be responsible for the use and maintenance of all town facilities and equipment under the jurisdiction of the select board and for the rental thereof when authorized. So again, most of the changes that we're recommending here are around just broadening out beyond the select board as you broadened out the town administrator's responsibilities. So here the responsibility, the proposed language, and I'll highlight it before I read it, states the town administrator shall be responsible for the use, maintenance, and rental of all town facilities and equipment. And then I plugged some things in here, but the committee can add or subtract here, but except those under the care, custody, management, and control of the school committee, the board of trustees, the board of library trustees, and the housing authority. So the equipment and the buildings of anything outside of those agencies, it's the manager, the administrator's responsibility to, maintain them. And also, if other parties want to rent them or use them, for example, oftentimes halls are used for weddings or events, things of those nature. I won't go through all the discussion except to say one of the things.
Can I just ask you a question before you get to that?
Sure.
Do we need to say or designee? Because I'm looking at this, and let's assume that we say let's talk about the library for a moment. The library rents out their spaces routinely to different bodies. Actually, do they rent them or they just let you use them? They
ask for a donation, but anyway. I think.
Okay. So they ask for a donation. So with this language, the town administrator would have to do it. But if we said the town administrator or designee, but would be responsible for all of that. That way you have one person who's accountable for it, the maintenance and the, tracking the income and all the rest of that. But that one person is not necessarily doing it all for everybody. So I'm wondering if we need to add or designee.
I can do that. I'm going to add or designee, but
does that make sense?
I think that makes sense. I think it's sort of inherent in the language, but we can add it to make it explicit. But then the other thing, just to be clear, is that libraries, or at least the property under the jurisdiction of the Board of Trustees, is exempt from the town administrator's authority here under this language, unless you want to.
Well, I don't. I'm thinking I don't want to make them exempt. I'm wondering why. Is there a statutory reason why they have to be exempt?
Well, I would say it's fairly common. Again, I put some of your comparators here, for the committee to sort of look at and sort of think about this in relationship to other towns. Again, there are some communities that don't exempt it, the libraries particularly. But what I'll do is, before you get to that, I'll just add or designee. And then we can go on to this discussion on.
And I guess my other question is, and we're fortunate to have somebody on the Housing Authority on this committee, is there a reason to exclude the Housing Authority here?
The town doesn't do anything for us except trash pickup. Just saying. I mean, so we don't use any of the town's resources. And I don't even know if we may pay for the trash. I'm not sure. I can't recall.
Is that because
we have our own equipment and so on and so forth? We don't use the town's.
But does that make sense to have, or is that duplicative?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Well,
go ahead, Anthony. Yeah.
Yeah, just to add here. So charters are of varying ages. So in practice, a lot of charters will not have a specific exclusion for the Housing Authority, but it's an entity that exists under state law and does run itself separately in really all the communities that I've looked at for this. So the town administration is not usually doing a lot in terms of managing the property of the Housing Authority.
Yeah,
really all the communities I looked at.
I'm okay with it, and it just caught my attention as well. So can I just the trustee, the library? So wait a minute. So they have a rug cleaner or something like that. Is that what you're talking about? So for the what was it for the use, maintenance, and rental? Except so, I don't know how that works with the library. I mean, if they have all those things under their own budget. And frankly, I'm not sure how much equipment they do have, with that said.
Yeah, so two things here. So number one, your current bylaw technically excludes of them because, it says under the jurisdiction of the select board. Now, the library, the library trustees are technically the trustees of the property of the library. I don't know. I mean, every communities are different. So I don't know if that includes equipment like, some communities that the town does the grounds maintenance. I don't know specifically for Burlington, but generally like the library facilities, I think someone had a discussion about the rental of the hall or getting a donation to use it. Usually, well, I don't want to say usually, but I would say there are many communities where that's within the jurisdiction of the library director through the library trustees.
But the town facility department takes care of the library building.
Right. So that's.
But the equipment, Bill, I mean.
They're responsible for the air conditioning, the roof, the building integrity, all of that stuff. Nothing inside the building per se, but they don't care about the books or the shelving or anything else.
Yeah.
They care about keeping the building up.
Yeah, all right, good point.
And just to Betsy's earlier point, even if you were to, let's say, delete this exclusion here, it doesn't mean that in practice, the library director or the board of trustees wouldn't sort of in practice be the ones, the town administrator sort of delegating that to the board of trustees or the director.
Right.
personally, I'd take it
I
out.
feel like that makes the case for including designee and not including the specific call out to the board of trustees.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
So
So you're
are we
delete
saying
Board of Trustees?
delete that? Anybody opposed? Let's speak up. Don't raise your hand. Speak up if you're opposed to deleting that and keeping the designee in there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, so here's the language. And the housing authority, we've decided should stay in because they're a state.
So, yeah.
They're really a separate entity. The town doesn't, like, they have no budget for the town.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. They don't ask for money. So that's, yeah, okay, good. Okay, any other questions or concerns about this language before we vote?
Yeah, there are some places in town that the Conservation Commission has control over. It has structures. It's nothing it's going to rent, but the Conservation Commission is appointed by the Select Board. So when you remove the phrase "under the jurisdiction of the Select Board," did you now change the status of the conservation property?
No.
I don't think that's happening. I think it's just saying that the town administrator or their designee is responsible for the maintenance.
Okay, because there may be culverts and things in conservation land where conservation has control that may need maintenance.
Right.
By DPW or something.
And it says town property or town facilities and equipment. So I feel like that's included in that umbrella.
Okay, yeah. I think so, but I just wanted to see if anyone else had any concerns about
Okay,
that.
cool. Thanks, Jack. Anybody else? Are we ready to vote on this one? This is, what number are we on here? I can't see it.
This is M. It's, and apologies because we did the restructuring. It's actually 44N.
Yeah.
Okay, 4M. All right. Bill,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Nikki,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Eileen,
Yes.
Jess,
Yes.
Betsy, yes. Okay.
Okay. So then the last thing we've got for today, and I know it's late, and but is additional sections that may be in other charters that are the town administrator's duties that you don't currently have. So I'm going to turn it over to Pat. And Pat, before I do that, are you able to share, or do you want me to try to share the documents?
Pat should be able to. Pat, is your hand up on purpose? And you're on mute.
It was a while back, but I'm good.
Okay.
I will try to share the chart with the green markings. Let me just ask you, do you want me to get started on this, Chair?
How much time do you think it's going to be? We only have, I want to make sure we're doing this justice here. So,
the entire, this would be another maybe 4 or 5 pieces of language. So it would take a while to do the whole thing.
And maybe,
but if you're interested in me and can I give you a preview?
Sure. Okay. So here's what we'll do, unless anybody has any objection to it. We're going to preview the slides so that we all understand and can ask clarification questions only on the slides, so that next time we come back, we can, I'll talk about it. Does that sound reasonable to everybody?
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Take it away.
I'm going to give it a shot.
And by the way, if you have questions, just jump in, because I actually can't see raised hands for the whole, not for everybody. So.
Anthony, it's only letting me either share all of my screen or nothing. Are you able to share that particular document? It says we can't display your shared document. Would it be quicker if you're able to pull it up?
When I stop sharing, it now tells me that I can't share.
Yeah.
All right.
Wonderful.
So that's because for some reason WebEx only lets me do one presenter at a time. So I keep going back and changing between the two of you.
Okay,
So
I
it
think
should
I
be all
have it.
set for you now, Anthony.
I think I have it now. Let me
Okay.
just check to make sure I
Thanks,
have
Meg.
the right document
No problem.
open. Oh.
So while he's looking that up, let me just tell you a little bit about the process that we underwent. I took a look at all of the charters, lined up the provisions that we've already talked about that we've included in your draft charter with all of the other charters on your list. A couple of the charters have really not much of any. Milford and Milton have almost nothing about town administrator duties, so we kind of left that off of this chart. We had a larger chart where we showed all of the things that you've done so far, and of all of the provisions in your town administrator section so far, nearly all of the other comparable towns had similar provisions, maybe slightly different, for all of those things. One thing you have unique so far is the provision about the IT policy language, which is a new and interesting part of it. So what you're going to see now in this, and I don't know if you can make it any bigger or not, Anthony. Thank you. I wanted to give you an overview of some things that Burlington does not have. So if you saw the rest of this chart, Burlington had everything A through I. But some of the things that other towns have that are generally included in a town administrator or manager's duties are on this list. And we're only going to make recommendations for some of them, not all of them, because they're not necessarily applicable to you, but the chart includes them all just so that you can see what we looked at. For example, the first thing we're going to talk about is fixing compensation for employees. We talked about the town administrator enforcing the class and comp plan, but when it comes to actually fixing the compensation for employees, 3 of the 4 that have a robust town administrator section in their charter discuss fixing compensation for employees. So we're going to talk a little bit about what that means. Essentially it's the opportunity to negotiate and fix the salary of employees within the classification plan that town meeting has approved. It's a general provision that most town administrators or managers have. The next is a general responsibility of the town administrator or manager to keep a record of finance and administrative activities. Right now, it's not even about authority, it's about assigning somebody this task. So it's making sure that someone in the town, in this case, the town administrator, has responsibility of keeping the records for finance and administrative activities. We're going to talk about keeping an inventory of property for the town. That's a very routine task and responsibility that's included in town manager and administrator sections. And we will talk a little bit about if you want to include that. There's another document you received, which was kind of some draft language from other towns that you might want to take a look at between now and the next meeting if you want to think about this. Essentially, this ensures that somebody in the town is keeping track of what are all the properties that the town owns, and making sure that they're in an easily accessible place for the public to take a look at. I'm sorry, did someone have a comment? Did I? Okay.
Yeah, I might jump in there. If somebody puts it on paper, we have an archivist who keeps all records. But Daniel works for the town clerk.
Okay.
But so if it's reduced to paper or microfiche or something, Daniel keeps records of it. So we do have an archivist, if that helps you.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. It's also usually given the town administrator's duties to pull those together. You might have a variety of deeds, things are happening, things are going on the property rolls, off the property rolls. This also may include other property other than actual land holdings, but major, the language that we're going to be looking at, it might include vehicles, et cetera, things that are significant to the town. So the town has an inventory of everything that it owns. We'll talk more about that. The next one, Reading has something that talks about approving warrants. They're the only one of your comparative towns that has that. So we probably aren't going to talk a lot about that. Right now, I believe in your bylaws, it's the select board that approves warrants. So that's not necessarily something that needs to be put in yours, but we'll go through that in a little bit more detail. Reading also has something about being the Tort Claims Act executive officer, which is essentially they take service of any tort claims against the town. That is really governed by statute, so it's not really needed for a charter. But there are also parts in the town administrator section for how does the town administrator create or reorganize departments. We'll talk about that in a little more specificity, but in general, in charters, creating and reorganizing departments comes at a later part in the charter, not necessarily under the town administrator's duties, so we probably won't give you sample language for that. There was some language in Dedham's charter, going down the list, coordination of town agencies, that you might want to take a look at. And the supervising and directing employees section. Dedham has some, I think it was, let me just pop up. Dedham has some interesting language that you may want to consider because you've been talking so much about siloing. So we're going to talk a little bit about Dedham's language, which is really how do you coordinate town agencies that might be controlled by different boards. And there's some language discussing maybe giving the town administrator the authority to coordinate different departments working on something. For example, if I'm trying to remember if this example, when the town administrator came to the committee, one example is, if you get a complaint about somebody not in your department, what do you do? So someone says, oh, this field wasn't mowed. That might not be in the town administrator's role in one of his departments, but maybe he wants to coordinate the solution to that, make sure that this, and it's all being done informally, but I thought there was some interesting language in Dedham's charter that you might want to take a look at that might pull together some coordination of other departments. So some of the others just aren't necessarily applicable to Burlington. For example, you don't need a park and forest commissioner. Personnel records is going to be is governed by state law and is going to be part of your HR, not something you necessarily want to put in a charter. Water and sewer support person isn't necessarily something that functionally it's not part of the town administrator's job for this particular in Burlington. So I just wanted to give you an overview of these and then encourage you to look at some of the sample language we included in the other document. I'm not sure what it was entitled, but it's a memo where I give you an example of how would you include fixing compensation of employees in the charter? How would you include keeping records of finance and administrative activities in the charter? So that's just your preview, and we'll talk about these things in more detail next time. But I, just wanted to open it up if you have any particular questions or things that come to mind that you want to make sure I cover next time.
Pat, maybe it'd be a good idea to, I know you sent this out to everybody, to me, and I sent it out to everybody, but the only two documents we're going to talk about next time, maybe you just resend them to me and I'll send them out to the committee, and that way we'll just make sure everybody's on the same page with the same document.
Sure.
And of course the updated charter. based on what we did today. Are there any questions from anybody?
No.
Okay. Then a reminder, we are going to be live at our next meeting, and on WebEx, we'll do a combination. I need to confirm the room. And unless there's something else, I will take, first of all, thank you all very much. This has been, a rough slug evening here, I think. And I'll take a motion to.
The next meeting is the 24th.
Yep. All right. Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Anybody not in favor? Okay, it looks like we got a unanimous vote on that one. Okay, it is now 8:26 and the meeting's over. Thank you all for your time.
Bye, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you. Right.